From Chicago streets to the courts beat, Sal Scott Dan on the podcast seat. Bulls breaking news, talking stats and views. Every player, every play, we never lose. Horns over hoops, where the Bulls troop. From game analysis to fan scoop.
What is good, Horniac Nation and Bulls fans worldwide? And welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Horns Over Hoops podcast. I am your host for the evening, Sal Bass. Scotty B and Dan Gracie have the night off. And ladies and gentlemen, when I say worldwide, I really do mean it today, because joining me today for a special interview episode is somebody from not this country. He comes actually from the land down under, not to make a cheesy Men at Work reference there, but he comes from the land down under. You've seen him as the host of Whole Lotta Bull, and more recently, you've seen him on Bulls Without Borders. He may or may not have wrestled a kangaroo once in his life, maybe leaning more towards may not have. Those things are terrifying. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Troy Wingate of Whole Lotta Bull. Troy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Sal, for the invite. Much appreciated, mate, and looking forward to chopping it up with you, mate.
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you this now. I preach about it all the time. In fact, people are probably sick and tired of hearing me say this. When you see two people from opposing countries getting together on a platform, it truly is a special thing, because coordinating times for somebody on the other end of the world is never an easy thing. So my heartfelt appreciation extends to you for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk Bulls with me, especially because you just got done shooting BWB, didn't you?
Yeah. We just wrapped up Bulls Without Borders probably 20 minutes ago, something like that. So yeah, no, it's currently as of this point of recording is 20 to 11 in the mornings here. So time zones are a credible thing, especially once daylight savings start coming into things as well. It messes things up again. So like our daylight savings ends in a couple of weeks here in Adelaide. So the time zone thing is going to get messy again.
Yeah, we just had ours the last weekend for the whole week. It kind of messes you up time frame wise around here. It takes you a week to get back in the mood. The spring is the worst than the fall, because the fall, when you get that extra hour of sleep, you always wake up feeling like $1,000,000. But in the spring, it's like a train wreck. So
yeah, no, you lose that hour of sleep, and yeah, it's tough to you take. Yeah, like you said, it takes a good week for your body to readjust.
yeah. So what you're in Adelaide, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
Yeah. What's the time change? South Australia?
Yes, we're South Australia. So basically, essentially, we're in the Australian Central Standard Time. So we're half an hour behind the Melbourne and Sydney, Brisbane time zone. And I think as it stands with daylight savings, as it currently stands, we're about an hour and a half ahead of Perth, but usually it's 2.5 hours ahead of Perth.
Glad. I'm excited to talk, because I hope you're excited to talk Australia, because we have a huge segment about it going forward. We're going to be talking some Bulls later on. We got a couple fun games. So if you're ready to start, I am. We like to start every episode here on Horns Over Hoops with a little game that I like to call Tuesday Trivia. Just to break the ice here, I ask you a simple trivia question. If you get it right, that's awesome. If not, I'll tell you the answer. So no big deal. And today's Tuesday Trivia question was inspired by Australia. Seeing as though you are Australian, I would like to know, today's Tuesday Trivia is, can you name the last Australian-born NBA champion?
Last Australian-born NBA champion. Oh, the last born. Aaron Baines?
Baines is on the list, but not the most recent one.
Eddie Mills is older. Oklahoma City last year. He's back with Brisbane Bullets now. I forget his name, but Alex Dukas.
That's not the one that's here. Was he a two-way?
He was on the roster with Oklahoma City last year, and he's back in Australia in the NBL now with Brisbane Bullets.
Oh, I'm going to have to check this now, because that'll throw a wrench in it. That'll be the first time Tuesday Trivia gets derailed. Actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. Alex Dukas, 2025 champion. Look at that. The answer that I had here per online sources is a fella by the name of Jack White.
Yeah, Jack White. Yeah, I know Jack White. He was back in playing for Melbourne United for a couple of years, but he He's off in Europe now, playing in the EuroLeague. So, but yeah, I think from memory, he was playing. Who was he playing for that when he won the championship? Was it San Antonio?
He was a member of the 2023 Denver Nuggets team that won.
Oh, yes, that's right. The Nuggets. Yeah, he went to the University of Duke.
Yes, and fun fact here: he is actually the 8th Australian-born NBA player to win an NBA title. Some aforementioned names, like you said, were Matthew Dellavedova, Andrew Bogut, Patty Mills, Aaron Baines. I said Jack White, Alex Dukas, and of course, the great Luke Longley, who tallied up a few of them myself. Yes. Oh, I'm glad. Okay, for those of you listening on Spotify and Apple Music and can't see it, Mr. Troy has a incredible collection of jerseys here. I see a Luke Longley what city jersey is that for Luke Longley?
So no, so can you see the entire jersey at the moment?
It's a little bit. It's behind your title there, but
So let me grab it for you. I'll show you in full, but it's just a standard Bulls jersey, but in Australian colours. Let me grab it for you real quick.
oh yeah.
So
Oh wow, look at that. So it's a black again. I know that you could see on YouTube. I'm narrating for. It's a black jersey, and the color scheme where it would normally be, the Bulls colors is green and yellow. That is a great scheme. I love that. I'm surprised the Bulls have never done something like that where they black out the jersey and then just change the lettering like that.
we've seen the Bulls do some stuff with like Mexicana and stuff like that. Why not go? Hey, we've had a number of Australians represent the Chicago Bulls. Why not do an Australian inspired jersey?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had there's a few that a lot of people forget as well. It's fun revisiting this because there's been a lot more Australian-born players that you know of. Like I didn't know, like Kyrie and a few more, but like there's a lot of Australian players. You really do have some good talents down there. So while we're on the topic of Australia here, I want to kind of pick your brain as to how you came to come to love the game of basketball here, because if I'm not mistaken, Australia's national sport, is it basketball or is it something different?
So Australia's national sport is what we call it footy, but it's Australian rules football. We're the only country that plays it. So, but you do have access to it overseas. It's a different game to describe. It's a little bit, hard hitting like rugby and NFL, but our guys don't wear any at all.
Padless.
Completely padded. Some guys may wear some padded helmets, not like the full blown NFL style helmets, but they'll wear some padding helmets because they've had concussion issues and stuff. But there is no padding whatsoever in our sport. It's full blown. It's changed like most sports. It has changed over the last 20 or so years. Some things are not allowed that used to be allowed back in the old days but it's a very, very physical sport. The only way of disposing it, like, with NFL, like you've got to run the ball up and, you might kick it. Like you've got your punters and stuff and that may kick the ball like how many times a game? Like how many kicks a game would you guys have in the NFL?
I mean, for sure, after every touchdown, let's say average 5-6 times.
AFL football, you're going to be kicking the ball over 100 times. Because
Wow.
that's, yeah, and we kick it forward. We can't throw the ball. We actually have to what we call handballs. Have the ball in your hand, and it's an oval shaped ball as well. It's a bit more rounded than an NFL football. Whereas obviously the NFL football is a bit more pointed on the ends. Ours is a bit more rounded, and you have to handball it. So essentially, you have it in one hand and punch it with the other. Because if you actually throw it, that's illegal. You can kick it and handball it in any direction. Our main method of scoring. So there's 4 posts. So there's 2 large posts in the middle and there's 2 shorter posts on the outside. If you kick the ball through the 2 large posts and it does not get touched by anyone, and it just goes, it can bounce through, it can go through on the forward through the air. That's a goal and that's 6 points. If it gets touched before it goes over between the goalpost and over the line, that's a point. If it hits the post on the fall or one of the 2 middle posts, that's a point. If it goes between the large post and the small post on either side, that's a point. If it hits one of the outside posts, then if it hits it on the full, like without being touched and hitting the grounds, and then that's a free kick to the opposition team. If it bounces into the post, on the outside post, then we have what we call a throw, where the boundary umpires throw the ball back into play. But it's a very interesting sport compared to the rest. Like I said, no one else plays in the world. I highly recommend checking out. You'll probably see a whole bunch of YouTube videos of Americans watching Australian football for the first time, and they lose their minds because they're like, "What the hell is this?" Like, and I've seen one of these videos go, "Is that legal? Like, you can do that?" And have guys jumping on each other's backs to take what we call a specky, but it's catching the ball on the fault. And yeah, it's a crazy sport. It's not as brutal as it used to be because the rules have changed, but it's still a brutal sport.
Yeah, yeah, that seems to be the kind of the hot topic plaguing the NFL right now, and they have pads, which is wild. We have pads on, and we're already changing the rules because some of the hits are too hard and bounty gate and all that. But it's incredible to see that they're doing all this without pads. Are you an avid follower, or is it just a sport that's there?
That's No, that I'm an avid follower. It's my second sport. Our new AFL season, that's the competition. It's called the AFL, or Australian Football League. It actually got underway, like the main season got underway last weekend. The games played through Thursday through Sunday, so a bit like the NFL on that one, except no Monday night games. And only half the league played last week because there's this new thing they've had around for a couple of years called opening round. It's a bunch of bullshit. I hate the fact that there's only half the competition plays in open round. But yeah, round one is this week. My team, Port Adelaide, we played tomorrow our time. So yeah, looking forward to our season getting underway, and we've got a brand new coach as well. So looking forward to it.
Wonderful. I'll have to YouTube that. Funny that you mentioned American people watching Australian football because I'm actually subscribed to a channel that's called like Irish People Try, and it's just Irish people trying to. But have you heard of it? I think it's
I
similar
haven't done that
channel.
one, no, but no.
No, no, I love watching and just getting the reactions. It's pretty funny you bring that up. But from that, I'm what sparked the interest of basketball, more or less. So where does that play in, especially our Chicago Bulls? Because I'm assuming you started following the Bulls when they weren't the state that they're in now. Because I anticipate it would have it would have transpired a little bit earlier in your watching career.
Yeah, so I got into basketball. So I was born and grew up in Perth, Western Australia. So I'm not born and bred Adelaide. I'm from Perth originally. And I was 8 years old at the time. I'm about to turn 40 in a couple of months' time, so completely aging myself there. But yeah, when I was 8 years old, so back in 1994, I had some neighbours that were playing basketball in their front yard, and they actually played it with it in an organised way, with like with the domestic teams. And I just looked at it and gone, "Oh, that's interesting," and I gave it a go and fell in love with it straight away. And well, obviously cricket's a national sport here as well, but not as big as AFL. Um, but yeah, like once I started shooting a basketball, I just fell in love with the sport. And then in terms of how my love for the Chicago Bulls came about, back in the mid '90s, especially like in Perth at the time, there was you go to the shops, and essentially really the only NBA stuff you would see was like, the starter jackets or backpacks and stuff like that. And well, at least this is what I remember anyway, because hey, we're talking over 30 years ago. So you'd see Charlotte Hornets stuff, you'd see LA Lakers stuff, maybe some Boston Celtics and Chicago Bulls. And essentially what got me into the Bulls was the logo, because the logo to me just looked the best out of all of them. And then after I started looking into, okay, I saw obviously, the logo had Chicago Bulls. So obviously I started looking up things that were Chicago Bulls, and obviously stumbled upon this guy who apparently was pretty damn good. Used to shave his head. 423, I believe, for the Chicago Bulls. I think it's hanging up in the rafters at the UC. Some guy named Michael Jordan. But yeah, and then yeah, it just everything just flowed on from there. Like started playing basketball. I only stopped playing basketball myself completely probably only 2 or 3 years ago. yeah, like I had a stage there where I kind of fell out of love with the game because of, and not because of the Bulls or anything like that, but because of what was going on in my own personal life with, you know, I had it down, I think it was in my early 20s. I just fell out of love with the game a little bit because of, how my own playing days were going, and so I really dove myself into AFL. But yeah, and then probably about 5 or 6 years later, I fell completely in love with the game again, all over again. So, and it's been full on ever since.
Yeah, and definitely, honestly, I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me, like the even I was still watching, of course, my enthusiasm wasn't like sky high, but my enthusiasm was there. Definitely creating content and being part of the Bulls community, that definitely keeps your interest at a high level because not only you feel like you're not alone. Like when they lose a game, you're not experiencing that loss just by yourself. You have a whole community of people shooting the breeze about it too. Because you're also in the same Discord that I'm in a part of. The best Chicago Bulls, I have to do my episodely plug. The best and most active Chicago Bulls Discord in the market, the Bulls HQ Discord. Shout out Guilty.
Shout out.
It really is a worldwide, we can honestly say it is the most active Bulls podcast or Bulls Discord in the world because we have
Yeah,
Neil
absolutely.
from Ireland, you from Australia. We have a few other Australia. Was it Duncan is Australian? He's in there.
Yeah,
It's a great place.
Duncan, yeah, Pads, well, he's actually a mate of mine. We've known each other since we were like 13 years old in high school. So that's how far me and Pads go back. So yeah, we're both in Adelaide. Like Reese Brown, I'm not sure exactly. I think he's on the Gold Coast. But yeah, there's a number of Australians in the Discord as well. Like as you said, Neil from the UK. Well, he's in Ireland. It's
Ireland, yeah.
part of the United Kingdoms. Um, Man, yeah, Bulls Nation is 100% worldwide.
That's what makes and honestly, that's what keeps my interest going. Not just because I create content, but like you have other people experience the sport with you. It's no longer just, you're solo. But getting back towards basketball in Australia, because you guys have, of course, everybody knows you have your own league, the NBL. We've seen a lot of great players come from it. We've seen a lot of our players go down to it. And one thing that I always admired about the NBL is they have their own rules. They have their own differences between the NBA. It's not just a copy and paste. They managed to take the sport and make it more interesting and kind of tidy up some of the rules. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the two of them?
So when it comes to the rules in general, so like the NBA is essentially the only league that has its own rule book. Like we go under the FIBA rule book, so our the way that we play is more like the European game. We obviously we have some rule differences ourselves. Like it's not going to be an exact copy of FIBA's rule book. There's a whole bunch of rules. Some of them I absolutely hate. Like the goaltending rule, for example. Like if the ball's above the rim and it's on the way up, you can knock it off. I personally hate that. The NBA's got that one right, as far as I'm concerned. The overall, the physicality of the game is a lot more. It's more physical than the NBA. So you probably see a lot of guys even that have played in the NBA who they've got a lot of freedom to do stuff. They don't have that here now. We don't have handshaking and stuff like that, but there's just more physicality allowed. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differences. It's just a lot more physical. We play a 40-minute game as opposed to a 48. I mean, I think we should be in the 48 minutes because it used to be 48 minutes. So 12-minute quarters. They brought it back down to 10 for whatever reason. But my opinion is it should go back to a 48-minute game. But yeah, the league itself has absolutely blossomed over the last 10 years since Larry Kesselman took over ownership of the league. It's become now we have the NBL Next Stars program, which have seen LaMelo Ball come through, Josh Giddey's come through, a lesser known player, Terrence Ferguson, he came through it. Lockie Ulbrich came through the NBL Next Stars program. There's got like a couple of guys in the NBL right now, Dash Daniels and Karim Lopez, who are projected draft picks in this upcoming draft. They're in the NBL Next Stars program. There's a kid that's just signed in the NBL Next Stars program. His name is Luke Paul. He's going to play for the Perth Wildcats next season. He's a kid to keep your eye on if you're watching Australian basketball and looking at prospects. Luke Paul, remember that name because he when he When he's represented Western Australia in state competitions, he has absolutely torn it up. Like, he's dominated everyone. So, loophole, remember that name. But yeah, the NBL as a whole, it's an amazing league. My Adelaide 36ers, we're actually playing game 2 tonight of the NBL semi-finals series. So it's a best of 3. So we have a 1-zip lead on the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. We win tonight, we're straight into the NBL Grand Final series. We lose, well, it comes back here to Adelaide for game 3.
Do they have, I know it's apples and oranges here, but do they have like an NBA team comparison? Like, I hear it all the time. Like, this team is the Yankees of basketball. This team is, do they have a comparison, the Adelaiders?
Well, the Adelaide
Yeah. Do they, what would you say they compare to in NBA teams?
uh, that's a great question. Like, we've got 4 championships in total. So our last championship was in 2002, but we are still considered one of the most successful teams in the NBL history. In Perth Wildcats, I'd probably consider them the Boston Celtics of of the NBL, because, like, Perth Wildcats have the most amount of championships, and they're consistently in the playoffs every year. They're in the other semi-final series against the Sydney Kings as well. So Sydney has a 1-zip lead on Perth at the moment. But yeah, Adelaide, I'd like to say they're the Chicago Bulls, but not
Hey,
not quite, because we didn't have a dominant era like the Bulls did. I know it's tough to maybe San Antonio,
okay. That's good. Hey, that's
but
good company to be in.
at the same time, this is our first legitimate playoff series that we've had since 2018. So it's been a tough stretch.
You're like, that's literally a good hybrid of the Bulls and the San Antonio Spurs right there. So,
It's been rough.
if you're an avid follower of the show, you know that my co-hosts and me have kind of a weird fascination with the name Denzel Valentine, and I know Denzel Valentine spent some time in the NBL. What team did he play for? And I don't think he's still there. So, I mean, what would you say his experience there was?
So he played for the Sydney Kings, was Denzel Valentine. To be quite, he was nothing like, to be honest, he was nothing special here in the NBL. Like, there was times where I'm watching, like, back when he was here in the NBL with Sydney, I wasn't watching every Sydney Kings game because I'm an Adelaide fan, so I don't give a stuff about the Sydney Kings. They're one of our arch rivals, especially this year because of a certain player who moved from our team to Sydney this year. So there's an extra bit of spice there. But as far as Denzel's concerned, it was just typical Denzel Valentine. He was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, we have this awkward fascination with him. In fact, the website for our merch store is denzelrange.com. Which actually, now that we're here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the market for any of our Horns Over Hoops hats, hoodies, mugs, phone cases, anything baby onesies, head on over to www.denzelrange.com to find a wide variety of all of our great merch. Shameless plug for myself there. My apologies.
Yeah, well done.
Troy, let's move on to Whole Lotta Bull, because I said it on the Neil episode. I'm a big connoisseur of Chicago Bulls content creators from around the world, because you guys are the real fans, in my opinion, because I don't want to say we're fortunate enough to have the stadium right down the street. Some of us are in the same time zone, but then there's people that literally, like Neil, has to set his alarm clock to watch the games because they're at the crazy hours over there. I have a lot of respect for people who have to fan extra bit harder than we do here in the States. Something that I don't want to say take for granted, but that's just something that we don't really consider, So walk me through where did Whole Lotta Bull start? What made you want to get in to the content creation and podcasting game?
So I first actually started listening to podcasts in general. I think it was during the COVID year, 2020. That's when I first started just listening to podcasts in general. Obviously, I was talking on Twitter, like, the first podcast I ever listened to was Locked On Bulls with Matt Peck and Jordan Malley. So, like, so Matt Peck, Quick, and Jordan, then obviously Big Dave eventually, like, they became my OGs. Obviously, listening to Hayes, I consider him one of my best mates now. And it's crazy, like, I can, and obviously Phil, yourself, like, all you guys, I consider genuine friends. And
Thank you.
I've never,
Thank you.
obviously, never met you guys face to face, because we're all in a completely different country, halfway around the world. It all stemmed from, okay, listening to podcasts and then getting on Twitter and talking to everyone. And sometimes it felt like that the way I wanted to say things, it's difficult to put into text. So that's where like the whole, okay, maybe if I start just like an audio only podcast, the way I want to say it, because obviously we all know that how you say it verbally as opposed to say it how you put it into words can be taken differently. Like you might put something into text and mean it one way, but someone might take it completely opposite way. So that's basically where that came from. And then obviously I had my own personal things happen in my life where essentially I was doing audio only maybe once or twice, maybe once a week or once a fortnight. And then things changed in my life personally and decided to start the YouTube channel where I talk about the Bulls like basically after every game, do a post game thing. I might drop something in between games every now and then, but mostly it's just post games. But yeah, it's just talking about the Bulls and this team that I've loved for 32 years. So that's essentially where it comes from.
Yeah, I admire that. I love the name too. A whole lot of bull. I love the name because right now it's very fitting for the season. That's for damn sure.
Well,
Because right now
do you
it's
want
been
the
a whole lot
background
of
of where
bull.
the name came from?
I absolutely do. That was actually the next question.
So yeah, well, hey, beautiful segue into it too. So obviously when I was starting at just the audio only one, like Pads and I I was talking to Pads about it. And so shout out Pads. And I said to him, oh, I'm trying to think of names for a show. And then it was mentioned along, like, there's a song from AC/DC called Whole Lotta Rosie. And then it kind of stemmed from there where Paddy's just like, well, you're going to talk a whole lot of bullshit. So then I just obviously removed the shit part and it went a whole lot of bull. And I'm like, that actually sounds pretty good because I wanted to be something like Australian related. So so obviously the Australian relation there is the AC/DC song Whole Lot of Rosie. So that's where that stemmed from.
Yeah, that's a great name, man. I love that. I love when people have like history for their names. I love where their name has like a story behind it. So really cool, man. That's great. And you've been and you're really good at like as soon as the game's over, you start do you usually do them live, right?
No, all my shows are just recorded. And as far as me recording, so majority of the games are during my workday. So, today's game's at 1 p.m. my time. Generally, like Bulls home games are probably starting like 11:30 my time. So on the weekends, when the games fall on my weekends, that's generally when I'll get to watch them live. But when they're happening during my workday, so I'll keep up on everything as much as I can until I actually have to leave for work in the morning, and then I'm off it until I go to my lunch break, about 1 o'clock my time. And then I'll try and go through Twitter and try and catch up on everything that's happened from when I left for work right up until tip off. And then once I've caught up on everything right up to tip off, because generally once I've went on that lunch break, it's maybe half time, maybe three-quarter time of the game. But once I get a tip off, I'm like, okay, that's when you'll see the message that comes up from me saying "See Red Australia" later, and I've got the GIF where I putting putting the phone away. So then I will stay off social media until my work day is finished. I've gotten home, you know, done the things I need to do, like go to the gym, come home, have dinner, and then I'll sit down and watch the game. So I'm watching the game maybe 4 or 5 hours after it's actually finished, and then once I've watched the game, and then I'll come in and do my show.
And I have a lot of respect for somebody who can wait that long after the game to find out the score because here, unfortunately, I have so many notifications and the Discord, of course, blowing up that if you don't watch the game live here, you'll know the score. Hell, there's times where I know the score as it's going on. So I really do admire people who still watch. Do you ever find out like if they win or lose in that time? Or are you pretty good at just completely
I
shut out?
when I first started doing it that way, it was very tough. Like to not be like, "Oh, what's the score? Like, what's going on?" Once I started in the job that I do now, I work in an office. Like my job is very much I have to be on my computer all day, like concentrating on my job anyway, because like working in transport logistics. So have to be switched onto that all the time. So it's actually become much easier to stay off of my phone and not look at any scores because simply I just don't have the time, even if I wanted to.
Respect to that. Now that we're here, I want to talk Bulls Without Borders because it became, like I said on the Guilty episode, it became one of my favorite shows because it's really something you've never seen before. You literally have a group of people from 3 different continents talking Bulls, and you guys do it in a way that it's not just an organized show. And what I mean by that is I said on the Guilty episode where I literally feel like I'm at the bar with the boys enjoying a cold one while listening to people talk Bulls. It's almost like you guys are at the table next to me talking Bulls, and I love every bit of it. So I know you were there from the beginning. Can you kind of walk me through just the drawing up of the idea of it? What sparked the Bulls Without Borders story?
So essentially, like this was the brainchild of Phil. So shout out to Phil. He's done an amazing job putting this all together. It was just him wanting to be able to talk. He wanted this whole roundtable thing of people from around the world talking about the Bulls because he's like, this is a market that hasn't been done before. Why hasn't this been done? And me and Phil started talking quite a while ago, and obviously started speaking with Neil and Hayes, and also we got in Guilty as a couple of guests, like you've been on with us, and now Guilty is a permanent member of the panel. It just basically just stems from Phil wanting to talk ball with guys from around the world, and now it's become one of the most unhinged shows. It's not script like we have nothing planned out. We might have a topic that we want to talk about. Like today, it was about the West Coast trip and like Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey, for example. But for the most part, it's like you said, it's just a bunch of guys just talking ball. Like there's no pre-planned thing of what we're going to talk about. It just flows, and like we all give each other shit. We'll make jokes like Phil with the marinara sauce and
Marinara sauce, yeah.
so, Phil, we love you, brother.
Love that,
So
man.
no,
Genuine
it's just
person.
he's amazing bloke. It's just a free flowing conversation about the Bulls. It goes off the rails at any point, multiple times, and I think that's just what makes it so good as well. It's like while we are all talking ball, we're just a bunch of guys shooting the shit.
Yeah. And again, that's what I love and respected about that show. And to touch on what you said earlier, it's like you literally don't see this. That's you will not see anybody put forth the effort organizing people from many different time zones to get together and talk at the same time because when it's 10:30 a.m. your time, what time is it in the UK? I think it's like 11:59, 12 for Neil, right?
Yeah, it's something along those lines. Like so, what we started the show today at 5 p.m. Chicago time. That was 8:30 a.m. my time, and I think there was about 10 p.m. for Neil. So it just goes to show like how we've got to juggle these time zones to make the show work. And I appreciate Phil for like being like, no, we're going to go on a Friday night because that suits a schedule for me easier because essentially I don't really do anything on the weekends, especially in the mornings when we're doing the show. So suits him perfectly for me.
Yeah. That's the other thing to take into consider. It's not just time zones. There's five, sometimes 6 of you, all different schedules, again, all different time zones, and you guys find a way to make it work. And I said it before and I'll say it again. With the amount of care and the amount of love and work that you guys put into that show, that's why I'm a firm backer that it's going to be a big show. It's already blowing up as we speak because I see it all over Twitter and I'm a big follower. You guys have so many people in that chat when you're in there. And again, like you said, I was fortunate enough to be a guest on that show myself. And I didn't even feel like I was recording. I just felt like I was talking with Bulls with the boys. You know what I mean? And everyone, it's beautiful because everyone has different opinions and it all melds together. I could go on and on about Bulls Without Borders, man. So keep that up. I'm a huge fan. And again, shout out to Philly the Fourth, Guilty, Neil, of course, Hayes, of course. Shout out to all you because you guys really do a great job. So,
It
seeing
is a lot of fun, that show.
yeah, and it shows. Like I said, the way you guys express yourself, you guys put a lot of thought and love into that show. And if you love something, it's gonna grow. Now that we're all happy, I got to deflate the balloon because it's time to talk Chicago Bulls basketball. So whether you're happy at how the season's going so far or it's fallen short of expectations, we're going to take a dive into the mind of Troy on what he believes the Chicago Bulls have been doing. And I will just say this, based on the season at this point, what would you consider this Bulls season? Would you consider it a success, a failure, promising potential for, what do you consider this season?
Going into the season where it is now, this is obviously just turned into a massive fail because obviously the plan for the Bulls, and I'm not saying me personally, but the plan for the Bulls was to make the playoffs. And clearly, we're not going to do that. They obviously chose to go in a whole different direction at the trade deadline, sent off Io, sent off Kobe, but we traded out 7 players. And that's unprecedented. Like, I don't think any team's ever traded out 7 players at a deadline. So this is completely unseen before. In terms of how it's going now, look, for the remainder of the season, I've said this on my show, I've said it on Bulls Without Borders. I'm not concerned by wins and losses anymore. Like, whatever, when it comes to wins and losses, whatever will be, will be. What I'm concerned about is the play and development of guys like Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey. And especially those two together, how are they developing as a duo? So, and we've seen some great stuff from them of late. And obviously, Josh Giddey had a rough stretch there where he was dealing with that hamstring injury, and then he rolled his ankle again. And now it seems that like he has recovered from both of those quite well, and he's absolutely exploding. I know there's a number of Bulls fans out there going, "Well, it's March, Josh Giddey all over again." Josh Giddey before he did his hamstring, I think it was late January, early February. Well, it might have even been early January if I'm not mistaken. But before he did the hamstring, he was playing at an all-star level. He was averaging almost a 20-point triple double. So the fact that now he's got his body right again and he's having these monster games, I love to see this from Josh Giddey. Me being the Australian guy, he played for my Adelaide 36ers. So I love seeing this for Josh. And then Matas Buzelis, now that, the Kobe's gone and all these other guys gone, Artis has essentially become the man now on this team. He's the number one guy offensively. And the fact that now that he's taking it on, like we saw last night, that he was starting to chirp it at Luka Doncic. Now, did it backfire on him? Yeah, because Luka went absolute crazy. But I don't want Martis to change that whatsoever. Like as he said it in the post game, he's not going to back down from anybody, and I love that. Now, as I said in Balls Without Borders, does he maybe need to pick and choose who he talks crap with at the moment? Maybe. Hayes said absolutely not. And I do agree with Hayes on that one. Martis, he's going to talk, and I think as I said to Neil, because only me and Neil started the show off earlier today, and I said to Neil that oh no, it's gone completely blank on what I said to him. So, but I love seeing what Martis is doing now. He's being far more aggressive in looking for his shot, creating his own shot. We've slowly started to see the mid-range game come into it a bit more because we know at the start of the season, Billy told him to throw that shit in the trash. Now it's starting to come back into his game a little bit, and I love to see that. I want to see him become a 4-level scorer. Inside, mid-range, three-pointers, get to the free throw line, all of that. And as I've said on my show, I don't care how many three-pointers he takes. I care about the quality of the shot that he's taking with the threes. Now, has he taken a whole bunch that probably a bit questionable? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not worried about the actual volume, just worried about the quality of it. But I love what I'm seeing from Martis and Josh at the moment. And as far as the rest of the guys go, I'm not too concerned. Like Leonard Miller, and I don't need to see Patrick Williams play ever again. Give Leonard Miller all his minutes. But yeah, I'm more just focused on the development and the play of Martis and Josh.
I like that. I mean, it's really it's really interesting because, yeah, like you mentioned, after that trade deadline, it seemed like people then shifted how we view the games anymore. I don't want to say that we were watching and wanting them to lose. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you watch it more as a scout rather than for wins and losses, like you were saying. And I've seen some high points. Like I've seen nobody. I in that Discord with you, I'm all over Twitter. Nobody expected Leonard Miller to fit in as well as he did, and he's playing absolutely phenomenal basketball to the point where I'm hoping that we see more of him, not just for the rest of the season, but hopefully that man earns himself quality minutes going forward. Because for somebody to play with the level of confidence that he does, it's just incredible. You know, I would like to see more of that as more development, and I like that more recently we've seen Matas taking a step up into not so much the secondary guy or just the guy in the back, but now he looks like he wants to take over. He had that 40 piece the other day. He's jaw jacking with Luca, which that takes some stones to jaw jack with one of the elites of the game. And yeah, you know what? He got schooled, but at least he had the stones to throw some words around, man. That just shows you the man's confidence is sky high, and he's literally not afraid of anybody, which is a very redeeming quality that you want to have. Uh, what would you say would be? It's a very loaded question, but we have what 16 games left, something along those
I think
lines.
it's 16.
16 games left. Okay, what would you like to see for the remainder of the 16 games? And not even for failure, success. What are you just expecting to see? Like, give me specific details, like development of so and so, what have you.
Yeah, I think it still just goes on Josh and Matas, like them developing like their relationship as a duo. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Just and them taking the games to another level. Now you're gonna have a lot of Bulls fans say, "It's at the end of the season. None of this matters. What they're doing doesn't mean jack at the moment because it's teams aren't trying in March and all that crap." But no, I just want to see these guys, see them just consistently exit the games. Like we've seen Josh Giddey in the last couple of games. He's actually creating his own 3-point shot, the step back, side steps. Like we've seen him add that to his bag now because like has just been like a guy who will catch and shoot open threes, and he's been hitting it at a very high. Well, he's never going to be a Steph Curry, but he's hitting it at almost a 39% clip at the moment. Like, he went 6 of 9 yesterday against the Lakers, which was a career high in three-pointers made. So we've seen Josh add that to his game. We obviously need to see Josh get better defensively. I've been one of those people who's people will accuse of being a idiot, as C Red Fred had, well, maybe it was Matt Peck who labeled it. I'm also going to be one who will still criticize Josh where where I personally see he needs to be criticized, and his defense is absolutely one that he still needs to work on. He is making a much better effort defensively, but there's still a lot he needs to work on with that as well. Depending on what Billy Donovan allows him to do at the same time, I need to see more of the mid range come into it, and even in post up, like hacking people up in the post. Take your man because you're just bigger. He's got the wingspan to be able to do it as well. And then like we also see his shot blocking ability, but let's see better on ball defense as well. So it's just adding those layers to those guys. I'm not going to talk about Rob Dillingham because no thank you. I mean, Colin
Not
Sexton,
a,
we know what he is, but he's out for a bit of time now as well. But we know what Colin Sexton is. He's an absolute animal. He's a psycho. Colin Sexton is one of those players that when he's on another team, you hate him and I can attest to that because I hated him. And now that he's on my team, I'm like, I actually quite like this. This guy's got some things going on in his head. And I like it, but we know what he is. But yeah, all I'm concerned about for the remainder of the season is not wins and losses. It's just essentially the development of Josh and Martis. If leads to wins, so be it. If it doesn't, I'm not losing sleep over it.
yeah, exactly that. A lot of people now have pretty much decided, like they're tanking this, tanking that. It's not so much you don't care about who wins or loses, but you want to see what you can carry over into next season, because with the 16 games that we have left, now is your time to play around with these lineups. Now is your time to, hey, you know what? We'll throw Leonard Miller out there. We'll see what he's got. He's on the team. Might as well use him. Oh, wow. Actually working out pretty good. Now I got a piece that I can take into next season. You could see the leadership not leadership, but you could see the development of Matas's game, defensively, offensively, there's a lot of little variables that you can take into next season and not just worry about who wins and who loses the game. So I do share that opinion with you. But you're getting that same phone call that Hayes and Guilty got. Your phone's ringing right now. It's the Chicago Bulls organization calling you personally to say you've been made GM. AK has been fired. Yeah, he's on the phone now. AK has been fired, and you've accepted the job. And before you go hanging up your Luke Longley posters and your Luke Schencher jersey, what do you want? My question to you is the same as Guilty and Hayes. What are you going to do day one to ensure success of this organization, not just for the next season, but for many more to come?
Billy Donovan.
Fire Billy Donovan. Okay.
First move. That's the first move.
Okay. I like it. What would you touch roster wise? Do you feel there's anybody that you can move or acquire to kind of bolster that roster? Do you want to go young? Do you want to add any veterans?
Definitely. Well, I think it would be okay. Let's see what transpires in the draft first, especially with the lottery. Depending on where we pick in the lottery and who you select in the lottery. And I'm very, if the Bulls were to land the number one pick, I'm going AJ DeBanza straight away. Like, it's not give him that jersey. Like, print that jersey straight away. As soon as that lottery, as soon as it shows, who does the lottery? Who's the assistant commissioner, the deputy commissioner? What's his name?
Tatum? Not Tatum.
Mark Tatum. Yeah.
So,
as soon as he says the number one pick in the 2026 NBA draft will be made by the Chicago Bulls, that AJ DeBanza jersey is printed straight away. But hey, if we land a top 4 pick, you can't go really wrong with any of those guys in the top 4. So ultimately, my roster decisions would flow on from what happens in the draft. And then when it comes to free agency, obviously the Bulls are going to have a ton of cap space to play with. As far as adding with veterans, it's going to be, I mean, you got to have veterans on a young team. You got to have guys on your roster that can teach these young kids how to be professionals and and it's not just on the court, it's all the off court stuff as well, like what to eat, like the lifestyle that you need to live, how to keep your body right and all this stuff. Young players need a veteran presence, regardless of how many minutes that veteran may play in game, like whether they play 25, 30 minutes or whether they're waving the towel. That part to me is not that much of a concern. But yeah, like you probably want to add some guys in free agency that have got, some size and length. Like you want to add a whole bunch of some tall, like, 6'8" and over guys, got long wingspans, like some 3-and-D type players, but these ones that can still create their own shot when need be. But you also need guys who are going to fit in with Matas and Josh. And so, if you get a guy like AJ DeBanza, like, he's what I'm looking at is, Josh Giddey's going to be the type of point guard that's going to make everyone's life easier. Like, he's not going to be, and there's people out there go, well, Josh Giddey can't be the number one. You don't want Josh to be your number one go-to player. You want him to be the number one server, like as Neil calls him, the barista. He's going to serve it up just the way you like it. All right, so Josh is going to be the guy who sets the table for everyone, but he's got to be distributing and setting up AJ DeBanza or Matas Buzelis or Caleb Wilson, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, if we weren't one of those guys. So, but we all know that the Bulls need to get that guy, that dude. Now, does that become Matas? Maybe, maybe not. It could be one of the top 4 picks in the draft. But you need a whole bunch of guys that fit together as a group, and who are going to fit in, all fit together. And I was probably just saying the same thing over and over again, but it's essentially what you need, really. Guys that play, you need two-way players.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. At the stage that they are in their development, you're really looking for just adding more pieces to the puzzle at this point. There's a reason why it's called building it up. You know, you just add another piece, plug and play, see what you can do. And honestly, I'm glad you mentioned AJ because I've been following AJ probably since before he got into college because I usually follow those like what is it, the list of prospects going into college. Because I always found it fascinating like how young these players start getting scouted, like they're 12, 13 years old and already getting scouted for college and pros. And to me at 12 and 13 years old there was no way that I was even thinking about stuff like that. And these players careers are pretty much determined at such a young age. uh Moving it all forward, making short of a long story, AJ DeBanza was one of those players that when I was watching, I'm like, my goodness, I'm like, this guy's got something special. Length, ability to attack the basket, a shot, meaner, the way he carries himself. I'm like, this guy's going to be something special in the league. Now, I hope he actually is going to be something special for the Bulls and not just destroying the Bulls on a gamely basis. But I'm going to enjoy watching that man's career, whether it's with us or for another team.
Another Another player I'm interested in as well, probably my number 2 pick for the Bulls is, Caleb Wilson, North Carolina. That kid's got a bit of now, I'm not saying he's gonna be this caliber of player, I'm just saying the archetype and the kind of the crazy personality, he's got a bit of, Kevin Garnett about him.
Yeah, yeah. And you need, and as we know, you need a player with a personality, I guess is a good way to put it, because KG just bestowed a different environment to he didn't even need to change the game with the ball. He did it off ball. He did it with he's still by far probably one of the best trash talkers to ever play in this game, man, cuz whenever I want to have some fun, on YouTube, I'll throw on some KG stories and hear other people's experience when they're talking with KG cuz that man's a wild guy. So, shout out KG, man.
And hey, I'm gonna say me and KG, share the same birthday. Not the same year, but the same day.
Oh, really? That's awesome, man. What day is that?
May 19.
May 19th. All right, that's coming up around the corner, a couple months here. All right. Yeah, I have to go look and see if I share any famous NBA player's birthday, December 7th. Somebody told me that Larry Bird's birthday was December 7th. I don't, I never checked, but I would rather have KG. So kudos to you for KG. That's well, Mr. GM Troy, again, like I told Guilty and Hayes, moves like that, there's no doubt that this Bulls franchise will be in good hands because you clearly see the bigger picture and how the changes that need to be made to move forward to ensure success. And it sounds like you want the success. So GM Troy, you got my wish here. But Mr. Troy, before we move on to a game I like to call Horns or Thorns, I found out something about you the other day, and it coincides with some of my taste in music. I found out that you had the pleasure of seeing one of my favorite bands of all time live and in person. What band was that? And just go through the experience because I big fan of this band.
It is Linkin Park. Now I know I said I was gonna say we talked about this quite briefly before we started recording. I was gonna hit you with it and leave the genuine surprise, for you because I wanna see the expression on your face. Unfortunately, I did not get to see Linkin Park.
What?
They had to
What?
cancel the show because Emily got sick.
I didn't. Oh, see, because I knew you mentioned you either had tickets.
Yep, had tickets, pretty I'm not gonna say I had, like I had pretty decent tickets. I was gonna be, off to the side of the stage, a little bit up as well, so not like, amazing tickets, but, like, pretty damn good tickets, I like to think so anyway, but hey, I would've been there just to listen to it and all that. It would've been great to see him live in person, but no, so the show was supposed to be on Thursday night, our time here in Adelaide, and then about 1 o'clock, received a text message from the ticketing company saying that the show had been cancelled because there was an illness in the band. And we found out later on that it was Emily because she had lost her voice. And apparently she started actually getting ill on the Melbourne show 2 nights before. It actually got to the point where the band actually started changing the set list to try and help her get through the remainder of the show because she was starting to
Yeah.
struggle.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, they've always been a favorite group of ours because, like, me and my other co-hosts, like, even in high school, we would just use Linkin Park songs to finish sentences. Like, well, in the end, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't even
You know
matter.
that it just makes me crawl out of my skin, and like insert more and more corny jokes here, but I've always loved Linkin Park, man. Before we move on, what are your thoughts on Emily as far as stepping in for Chester? Because Chester was great, but I feel like Emily didn't really fall, she's not that far off. Like, she's equally as great.
Yeah, when obviously no one was ever going to replace Chester. Like, he was absolutely phenomenal. May he rest in peace. But yeah, when Emily came into the band, it was like this was the right fit. Like, she can, well, obviously, like I said before, no one's ever going to replace Chester. But how she has fit into this band and her range as well, where she can do the screaming, and then but she's also got that soft tone as well. Like, she is an absolute perfect fit for this band. I know reading through stuff on Twitter and Facebook after the cancellations, like, well, they should have renamed the band because this is not Linkin Park. It's just a cover band. It's like, no, shut the hell up. Like, let's stop disrespecting Emily and stop, for the most part, stop disrespecting Mike, because Mike is an absolute genius. And I've watched a lot of I've watched some behind the scenes videos on with Emily and how they're making some of these songs, and where some of these lyrics come from have just come from by accident. Like, it's just them mucking around in the studio. So, like the song Two Faced, like watching the video, that bridge part where she goes, I can't hear myself think, can't hear myself think. And then she goes, stop yelling at me. Like,
Yeah.
the whole stop yelling at me thing was just, she actually said 2 minutes prior to Mike, that's just something she says to her friends. And then it just integrated it into the song because that's not how the song was supposed to be written. And that became the song. Like, that became the bridge in the song. And so, no, Emily's amazing. She's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that it's sad because, like, the only other group I can think of that had a change in their singer would have been Motley Crue. But it's a lot different from Motley Crue, where, like, they took Vince Neil, or I'm sorry, Vince Neil out, and they replaced him with a different singer. Forgive me, I don't know his name, and it didn't pan out for them. They changed the singer with well, they didn't change it. Emily stepped in and brought it to a different level of success, I guess I could say, because
Yeah.
she fits so well. Emptiness. When I heard Emptiness Machine, I'm like, this group did not miss a beat, and that was, of course, after a pretty lengthy hiatus there, because
Yeah,
obviously
it was
losing Chester.
7 years after Chester had passed.
Yeah. So I mean, and they
I love the way, because obviously I don't know if you've seen it, Sal, but the way that they actually introduced Emily, they had like this secret show with that, and they were streaming it, and you can see like all the stuff is set up on a stage, and they've got it covered in like these sheets, and then also like these people come out and remove the sheets off the equipment, like the drums and the microphones and all that, and then as the band comes out and they, the crowd's going crazy and all that, and Mike says, "Oh, it's good to see you again." And the crowd goes nuts. And Emily's not on stage yet. So it's just Mike and Joe and the other guys. And then he starts singing the Emptiness Machine, like he's doing his part. And then obviously, as that music intro is going after Mike's done his part, Emily walks on stage, and this is her introduction to Linkin Park fans. And then she starts singing, and it's like, so that, to me, that was a perfect way to introduce her as well. Because like for the first single is a song where Mike is doing the opening, and you're having to wait for Emily. And I thought that was brilliant. And yeah, that was absolutely perfect the way they did that. The only another band that actually had to replace the singer was AC/DC when Bon Scott died, and also replacing with Brian Johnson. It can happen. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, that's not the real band." Blah blah blah. It's like, no, this is the band. Just because someone had to be replaced out of it, or someone had to fill in because someone has passed away, doesn't mean it's not the real band.
Yeah, exactly. And I know there's others, I had AC/DC, Motley Crue. I think even Metallica, because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Dave Mustaine part of or Black Sabbath, or forgive me,
I'm not sure.
but one of them, Dave Mustaine, left and joined Megadeth, and it might have been Metallica. I'm behind on my on my 80s metal, so forgive me. Real quick, favorite song. I'm gonna say mine quickly is becoming Heavy as the Crown.
It's a tough one between Heavy as the Crown, Emptiness Machine, and Two-Faced.
Yeah, great songs. Great songs.
It's hard to split those three. I like them all.
Yeah. What about Chester era favorite song?
You can't go past like the originals In the End and Nothing Else. In the End and oh, now I'm having a complete memory bank because you put me on the spot. This is what I do. I get put on the spot, I will go blank on stuff.
No worries.
The original single, so you've got me blank. This is what happens to me. I go blank. But their debut single.
Paper Cut?
No, it wasn't Paper Cut.
I know what you're talking about. Not Crawling. Dadgummit. I'm gonna think of it later.
Yeah, now I'm gonna go crazy until I know the name of the damn song. But yeah, that one. So those two and Given Up as well.
Okay.
Because where Chester has that
Yes.
14-second scream on that song.
Yes. Yes. Man, I loved that man, what he did with his voice, man. He was a great singer.
Here we go, One Step Closer.
I knew it was one of those things like, the answer, and then when you hear it, you're gonna be disappointed in yourself for not knowing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right on. Well, Troy, it's time to play a little game that I like to call Horns or Thorns. I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen or known about Horns or Thorns, but for those of you at home who don't know what Horns or Thorns are, it's essentially a buy or sell. Yes, that's going to happen. No, that's not going to happen scenario, where I give you a scenario, and if you agree with the scenario or you think it will happen, you say horns. If you think that it will not happen, you say thorns. Feel free to explain any answers you would like, and I give you 5 scenarios here. 5 scenarios. So if you're ready, would you like to play Horns or Thorns?
Let's do it.
All right, we got 5 of them here, like I said. Horns or Thorns, question number 1 is, before he retires, Josh Giddey will win an NBA title in his career.
That is a great question.
Starting off hot.
Starting off really hot. I would love to say Horns because I'm going to believe in my guy, but I'm going to tend on Thorns. I think it's going to happen.
Okay, I like
Not to
that.
say that
All
he
right.
can't be a part of a championship team. I absolutely believe he can be a part of a championship team. Like, for those who don't know, I don't know if you've seen me say this out. So after that Oklahoma City series loss to the Dallas Mavericks, where Josh Giddey got benched in that series because he was shooting like trash. As soon as that series ended, like the second that Dallas won the series, I'm like, Oklahoma City's going to win the championship next year. And that included Josh Giddey on the roster. So, and then Oklahoma City, now also that Giddey Caruso deal happens, and OKC win the championship. And people say, well, it's the Alex Caruso effect. I'm like, no, that team was going to win the title anyway. Did Caruso help it in his own regard? Yeah, absolutely. But so would have Josh Giddey. No. It's absolutely horns on can a team win a championship with Josh Giddey? Absolutely, it's horns. But do I think he will win a championship? I edge on Thorns.
I like that. I love that explanation. Horns or Thorns question number 2 is, I've asked a few other people this. I just like collecting everyone's answer. But the Chicago Bulls obtain a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. Horns or Thorns?
So it's going to happen. And we're going to manifest it. We're going to speak it into existence. And we're also going to speak into existence that we're going to get that Portland pick. They will make the playoffs this year. And we will get their pick this year.
Yes. And if you don't think it'll happen, start looking on the brighter side of suffering, people. Optimism, like you said, speak it into existence. Love it. Horns or Thorns question number...
Speak it into existence.
That's going to be the slogan. You're not going to like this next one, but again, I created this before the episode aired, just so you know. Horns or Thorns question number 3. This will be a quick one for you. Rob Dillingham develops into a volatile backup point guard.
Thorns.
I knew that one wasn't gonna require much thinking. Like, next. All right. But Horns or Thorns questions number 4 is the Chicago Bulls will give an increased role to Leonard Miller next season.
That's a great question. I think ultimately it's like most things, it's going to depend on what happens over the off season with the draft and free agency. If going by what we're looking at right now, Horns, absolutely, he's going to get an increased role. But yeah, we do need to see what's going to happen as far as roster movement going into next season. But as the roster stands as it is, absolutely, he's going to get an increased role.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a big fan of Leonard Miller. He's quickly becoming one of my faves, that's for sure.
Surprising the hell out of me. I did not have any hope whatsoever for this guy. So the fact that we actually know he's on the court, unlike Patrick Standstill Williams. Yeah, like this is quite a wonderful surprise.
Yes. It was one of those like, all right, Dillingham is taking some time, but we got Leonard Miller, so it's okay. We have an upside to the coin.
Absolutely.
And the final Horns or Thorns question has very little to do with basketball other than the fact that these suckers are probably about the size of a basketball, and that is the huntsman spider is by far the scariest thing on planet Earth.
They're
Really?
not that scary. They're not that
Really?
scary.
No?
Nah. Hey, maybe it's me just being an Aussie and I'm used to them. They're not as big as, well, your typical household huntsman is not as big as
Household
people think.
huntsman?
Yes. They're not as
Man.
not as big as what they as people think they are. Now are there some bigger ones? Yeah, absolutely. They can get to a decent size, but are they this ginormous spider that people think they are? No.
Man, I've seen one too many YouTube videos where it's like, now here in the United States, like we'll get that little annoying spider that you see run across your wall, and it's like all about the size of, a marble. You know what I mean? But it's still like, oh, look at that. Then when you see like you guys in Australia have a dinner plate size spider on the corner of your wall, it's like I have arachnophobia to the max. I saw one YouTube video, and shame on me for watching to the end. I don't know where he was going, but it was night. He was driving in a car on one of your interstates down there, and the camera then pans to the dome light of his car, and on the dome light is a giant huntsman spider. That would be the end of Sal Bass right there. Sal Bass would have jumped out of the car, careening off of whatever. That would have been it. I would have been done. Like that car would have been ablaze. Like I'm not a fan of spiders, so.
Look, I'm not a fan of the redbacks are the ones you need to look out for. Because like one bite from those, if you don't get to hospital quick, you're done. Huntsmans are just hairy and like they look worse than what they are. Because if you get a huntsman bite, you might get a little bit of nausea. That's about it. Whereas redbacks can kill you. And I don't exaggerate. Redback spider can kill you. But yeah, it's when it comes to huntsmans, like if one was to just all of a sudden pop on my shoulder out of nowhere, yeah, that'll freak me out. But if I know it's there, like if I look on my wall and I see one right there, I'm like, okay, cool, and I'll just go get a shoe or something and kill it, or the fly spray and kill it. But I've had one where I remember one night I was in a mate's car, and this is going back maybe 20 years, in the car and got the seatbelt on, and all of a sudden I see something roll over, and like, yeah, that freaked me out. But like, yeah, if I just turn around and see one on the wall, like, I'm not bothered by them.
Now, without exaggerating, about how big do they get? Because I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I've seen them get on videos pretty stinking big.
Yeah, the biggest one I've seen personally is probably no bigger than my palm, and that's probably exaggerating how big.
Okay, all right.
Maybe that big. It's more their legs. They can actually spread their legs out a bit more. But when they're just crawling along with, obviously they're going to have the legs up and stuff. They don't look as intimidating. I mean, the only spider that's actually kind of freaked me out when knowing it was dead. So I used to work in fresh produce, and I was moving and stuff, and I saw this ball just drop out of something. I'm like, okay, I'll just get my broom and sweep it out. The moment the broom touched it, it sprung up on its legs and then started kind of bouncing at me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then get the broom and hit it again. It tumbled and then got back on his legs and tried to come back at me again. I hit it again and then I killed it on the second go. But like, that's the only one where I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. Wow, that would again, that would be the end of old Sal Bass. You'd see me running down the street. Man, there's two things I don't do. Spiders are both of them. That's it. I can't do spiders, man. Real quick before we end on, and I know for every participant of Horns or Thorns, you win yourself some uninterrupted airtime where you address everyone. But before we get to that, I know Australia is getting really notorious for having pretty much every single of the deadliest variation of the animal is from Australia. So what is the most deadliest or scariest encounter you've had? What was the most deadly animal that you've been across from?
In person, this is gonna be a tough one because it's actually been in a controlled environment.
Okay.
Great white shark.
You've seen a pointer, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Cage is and this is why I say it's a controlled environment because it was cage diving with great whites. So, but in terms of being in the scariest thing, and I didn't actually see it. So this is where it became actually more scary. So there's a place up in a little bit of the northeast of South Australia. It's the Riverland area. So anyone from South Australia, you know what the Riverland area. It's a nice town. It's a nice, beautiful area. It runs along the Murray River, as we call it. And so, this was probably when I was about 10 years old, and like my mother's taking me out in the car to go check out the Christmas lights, and her car battery dies. But there's a house about 50 meters away. So she goes, "Oh, can you, like, I can see you perfectly from here. Can you just go knock on the front on that person's door, go, hey, and get some help?" Yep, no problems. And then so I knock on the front door, and the person opens their door about this much, and they're like peeking through the door, and they're like, "Yeah, hi." I was like, "Yeah, well, my mum's car has just had a problem. I think the battery's died. Can we get some help?" Yeah, yeah, no problems. And they open the door, all's good. About 5 minutes later, once the car's been brought over to this person's house, the person then mentions that probably about 2 minutes prior, there was about 5 or 6 tiger snakes on the front lawn where I had just walked, and tiger snakes are notorious for actually being aggressive. So I got quite lucky. So that's probably the scariest thing that I would have done in person with an animal, but but I didn't see them. It didn't happen. So yeah, that's where I say the cage diving with the great whites is probably the scariest thing I've done, but it's the most exciting thing I've done because being down in the water with great white sharks was absolutely incredible. Just watching them glide through the water, and the group before me as well, like, you know how they throw the bait out and they'll pull it towards the cage? The group before me, the sharks were starting to get really aggressive, and they were coming at the bait and hitting the cage pretty hard. And one of the great whites, there's a bit of a gap, so you can have a decent viewing. One of the great whites actually got its nose, like the top of its jaw, into that gap. So that was exciting. I'm like, cool, this is going to be us coming up next, but nothing like that happened when I was in the cage. But no, that was the most incredible experience I've seen with wild animals.
I have the most irrational. Okay. Those of you who know, for those of who know me personally, they'll know that I basically tell everyone I know how I'm going to go in life, and I have a sneaking suspicion that a shark is going to take me out. I have no idea why I think that. I live in Chicago. There is not a shark for thousands of miles in opposite direction, but still I have in the back of my head that sail bass will meet his demise at the hands of a shark. So, uh, I guess if I just don't go anywhere, I'll be fine. But I don't know. Someone's going to tell me like I'm going to be on vacation one day, enjoying the beach, going out for a little swim, and then Jaws is going to come take me out. So, moral of the story, if you hear me say that I'm going on vacation anytime soon, just make sure there's no ocean for thousands of miles around. Well, Troy, like I said earlier, for playing Horns or Thorns, you win yourself some uninterrupted airtime. Please go ahead and address the Bulls fans and the Horniacs about anything and everything that you so please. Floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Sal. First of all, it's been a pleasure joining you today. So, but yeah, as far as the Bulls are concerned, look, stop concerning yourself about wins and losses. Like, stop bitching and whining about any win that the Bulls may pull out for the rest of the season. If it's led by Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis, if that's the reason we get the win, celebrate it. Stop bitching and moaning that it's going to ruin the lottery odds. The likelihood is we're going to end up somewhere in the 8 to 9 spot. And don't forget, the last two teams that had the number one pick had the 11th best odds to land the number one pick. This is why they call it a lottery. So calm down on the Bulls. Blue can win if you want to call it that, because it's not going to change that much. Yeah, just enjoy what Josh and Martis are doing for the rest of the season, and actually support these guys rather than be like, why are they doing this? They should be losing games. Just enjoy what Martis and Josh are doing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Because actually, on the last show that I did, the Tuesday trivia was, what was the last team with the worst record to get the number one overall pick? And it was back in 2018. Now I know it's not that long ago, but it's almost an 8-year gap. So, and then I also asked Guilty, who was a team that the 1982 Lakers actually won the championships and got the first overall pick and selected James Worthy. So you don't necessarily need to go out there and lose every single game. Like, you shouldn't be hoping for that either. You should be hoping for just progression and positive things, just because we won a game. I know that Bulls fans are at an uproar right now because we won one, lost one, won one, lost one. It's like, stop winning. No, man, you want to see progression. You don't want to bestow losing mentality on players. It messes up their development.
Exactly right. And like Milwaukee, they've just got Giannis back. So I highly doubt we're going to climb above Milwaukee in the NBA standings. I highly doubt we're probably going to catch Memphis or Dallas in the lottery standings. I think we're probably going to stay at number 9 for the rest of the season. So chill out. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Troy, thank you so much for joining me today and talking Bulls and talking Australia and giving us an eyesight or an insight on your culture there. I'm a big fan of, like I said earlier, big fan of fans from around the world. I love hearing everybody's story. It means a lot to me that you sat here and spent an hour and a half with me. For those of you who have not, all on this end of the table, sir. My pleasure. For those of you who haven't followed Mr. Troy here at Whole Lotta Bull, please go out there, follow him, hop in the Discord, really start talking bull with us, because it is really a playground and a breeding ground for some great conversations. If you have not checked him out, check out Bulls Without Border. You can find more Troy, Neil, Guilty, Hayes, Philly the Fourth, of course, and it like I said earlier, it's quickly becoming my favorite show out there, and I can't wait to see it get to its full potential. You guys did a phenomenal job with that. With that being said, of course, with that being said, that is going to be the buzzer on another great episode of the Horns Over Hoops podcast. We encourage our Bulls fans and our Corniacs to keep their hoops high, but their horns higher. Good night, everyone, and go Bulls.